Chris Squire is one of the most innovative bassists in the history of rock, and we have the pleasure of talking with him today.
Hi everyone, nice to be here.
Are there any warm-up exercises you'd like to do before a recording session or a live performance?
But you mean like a regular scale, like no. I don't usually play those things. In fact, yeah, if you asked me to play a diminished scale, I probably wouldn't know where to start, even though I probably know in my head how it sounds. Usually my mind's on the track we're about to record and trying to, improve that before, we go into the studio to do it. And when we're playing live, usually the same thing applies. I'll be in the dressing room playing the first song we're about to do before we go on stage. However, there's one thing I do like to warm up on sometimes, which is the track Sound Chaser from the Relayer album, and I'll just give you a little bit of that. So it goes like this.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a warm-up to me.
Yeah.
Okay, how about, you have one of the most distinctive sounds in rock and roll, as far as I'm concerned. I attribute a lot of that to your picking technique. Could you explain a little bit about the way you pick, maybe the gauge of pick that you use and how you approach the pick?
Well, I've always, for some time now, used a Herco heavy pick, which are these grey ones. I don't know if you can see them, but it's grey. And I think they make a guitar pickup that's kind of a bronze colour too. And probably most people know that I've always used rotor sound strings, which are the standard swing bass gauges. And to know exactly what they are, we'll have to look at the packet, but it's the standard swing gauge set. And there is one thing, I guess, and not many people ever realised about a lot of the way I play, is that I don't just play with a pick. I actually, over the years, have developed a technique where the pick itself is just in front of the thumb. So in fact, a lot of times when I'm actually playing, I hit the string with the pick, and then after that my thumb hits it like a millisecond or two later, which is like a kind of an ADT. It's kind of hard to demonstrate because it's real quick, the actual time. But if I just took the G string and I played it with the pick, it would just be like. And if it was just my thumb, it would be a softer sound, like. But the way I do it is tend to put them together and have a. So you're getting a harmonic in there as well. Mm-hmm. So it's like. So it's kind of a technique that I don't think anyone else has really used. If anyone else has, please write to Starlix and let them know, because I don't know how I developed it.
Do you feel you get more of a feeling for the string that way?
Yeah, there's definitely more. There's more contact with the human body. I think just hitting it with the plastic itself is not the same feeling. Yeah, so it's definitely, you can get more soul into your playing that way.
A little bit about the equipment. Now, that's the original Rick that you've...
This is the original Rickenbacker that I've had ever since 1965, which I actually bought while I was... the only regular job I had was in a guitar store for a year when I was 17, and I bought this Rick then, and I used it through my first band, The Sin, and all the way through Yes's history as well. So yeah, it's still here. And as a matter of interest and history, Rickenbacker have actually just come out with this copy of it, which they're marketing with my signature upon it. And It looks the same and sounds almost the same, and I think they're going to be available soon.
And in a lot of the stuff that you play, I hear you use a lot of double stops or chord applications. Could you maybe demonstrate some of that for us?
What, the use of chords?
Chords or 2 notes or 3 notes?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've always been I think it was down to when I was about 19 and I was just alone, you know, in an apartment practicing, you know, then you just hear thumping out 1 notes, you know, it became a little uninteresting, so I got into learning how to play, well, my adaptation of a major chord on bass, which is like a D major, which is like, which is the low D, the A, which is the 5th, and the octave D, and then the 3rd on the top.
So you're utilizing your thumb in that position?
Yeah, using my thumb, yeah. And down to C, to B flat, to A flat, to G. I'm the walrus, folks, actually. So that's your standard major. That's your standard major chord. And there are other chords I use. There's like, what chord is this really? I suppose it's like a 7th, which is like a kind of a jazz blues chord, which is like. That's one I haven't used an awful lot, but that's more for amusement at home. Let's see, in Silent Wings of Freedom, which is on the Tomato album, there was a bass solo on there that utilized quite a lot of high note chording, including playing the low notes at the same time, where I played the riff like the... different inversion of the major chord, with the 5th on the top, the 3rd in the middle, and the E root, which is the normal thing. And yeah, I think I've used other chords too. I mean, there's kind of a 9th chord.
Great. You know, in the song, I've Seen All Good People, it really sounds like a lot of blues applications to me on different changes, but you make so much out of that one change on that riff. Can you maybe demonstrate that riff for us?
Sure, yeah. It's kind of a blues riff, but the odd thing about it is that it contains a major 3rd instead of a minor 3rd. I mean, the usual blues notes are usually in the key of A would be, you know, A, G, E, D, C natural, and A. But in the application I've Seen All Good People, I use the C sharp instead, which so that would be A, G, E, D, C sharp, and A. And so the actual riff is. And on into the verse. So, yeah, I like that riff.
That's a great riff. Now, what about Roundabout?
I thought you'd ask me that, strangely enough.
The sound on that particular track is, and just the way you played it, is just like a rock classic. Maybe
yeah.
An explanation on that?
Well, in actual fact, not many people really know this, but in actual fact, there's 2 guitars playing that. It was, although I could get away on stage with just playing this, when I actually played that originally in the studio, it was actually this bass with more treble on it, a bit like this, giving that classic metallic sound, but along and combined with that, actually there was a very mellow Gibson acoustic, old acoustic electric guitar, which I believe was not actually electric through the board, but just had a mic on it in the studio, and I was ghosting the part an octave higher. And that was slightly mixed in, but I will, however, play it for you on the Rickenbacker right now. That's it.
An interesting fact for our viewers that don't know, Chris was the first bass player to knock Paul McCartney off the Melody Maker hottest bass player.
Well, yeah, back in the 70s, I guess it was. Yeah, the Melody Maker magazine, which was the most widely read musical paper, weekly paper. They used to have a yearly poll that everyone would vote on, and yeah, Paul McCartney, obviously being rather well known, won it quite often, and yes, and I think around about 1972 or 71 or something, I think I won it for the first time, and then I actually won it consecutively for the next 6 years after that, actually.
That's a statement in itself.
Yeah, I know, but here we are.
Okay, how about some of this equipment?
Never won the guitar player, Paul.
I wonder why. Some of this equipment, you have quite an array of basses here.
Tons of basses, yes. Yeah, as I said before, the Rickenbacker is the Chris Squire limited edition.
Are there some differences between the original one and this?
Well, amazingly enough, they've really worked very, very hard to you know, reproduce my original guitar. Even this colour is my own colour that I had done in London a long time ago, and they've never made a bass like that before in the factory. So and it sounds remarkably similar. In fact, some of the technical aspects of the guitar, being it was made 25 years after this one, much better. So definitely well worth looking into if you're in your music store. Next to that is the Tobias 5-string, this red one here. I used that a lot on the Big Generator album. In fact, let me show you something from that. The 5-string bass.
Yeah, I'm Running from Big Generator.
That's right, yeah.
Now, seeing
People
how
forget that title often.
I heard that. Seeing how you have that 5th string, what is it tuned to?
Well, okay, normally, you see, the reason why, I don't know if I was actually the first person to have a 5-string bass, but Mike Tobias came to me, around 1983, and we started talking about them, and I realized around that time that especially with synthesizers being able to, you know, go much lower than conventional bass guitars, that there would be a need for basses to start being lower pitched to, in a way, compete with the synthesizers. So we worked on this guitar, and normally the top 4 strings are the same as on a regular guitar: the G, the D, the A, and the E. And normally this would be a B string. To follow in sequence, but for some reason I didn't really feel very comfortable having a B at the bottom. I didn't know how, so I experimented a bit on my own after he made this for me, and tuned it right down to an A. So the regular A is here in the middle, and this goes real down low to that note. And out of that tuning, I wrote the riff for the song Big Generator, along and together with Trevor Rabin's help, of course, not to ignore his contribution. But and this is what we came up with. Yeah, so in a way the song came out of the tuning of the instrument. The instrument created the song in this case, rather than the other way around, because of the sound capability that that we had. And I'm a big fan of doing things like that, changing things from the ordinary, and then coming up with from a strange tuning or a different way of doing things. A song that people think, oh, that's different, they do that, and that's how you get on.
Are there any other basses that use a different tuning?
Yeah, well, actually, I wouldn't mind just continuing this story, because after having played this now for the last 5 years, since about 85, 86, 4 years, I guess, I actually came to the conclusion that I'm not as comfortable with it as a conventional 4-string. So I went back to Mike and I said to him, why can't you make a bass that actually goes a 4-string as normal, but instead of it stopping here, it goes lower that way? And so he came back with this. And I'd like to demonstrate it to you.
Boy, that's a nice sounding bass.
Thank you. As I said, that was this has kind of been a development for people who really don't or aren't used to playing 5-strings. It's something that I think that there's a future for this bass. Normally, a bass would finish here. That's the standard thing, and this one, as you can see, goes 4 frets lower. And in fact, Tobias is developing another one that's even got 1 extra fret longer than that goes down even further. And so I guess whichever one proves to be the most playable will be the one that he'll manufacture, because this is slightly strange because of the tuning. It's actually tuned to C, the low string, and the next string up is an F, and then you have a B flat and then an E flat. And he was saying to me that he thought maybe if it was B, E, A, D, that would be more understandable to guitarists, and I tend to think he's right. The other thing I want to say is that the little thing I was just playing was actually a little blues riff I just wrote, but it's actually, I don't know if anyone noticed, but it was in 5/4, which is something, as you may or may not know, I've done a lot in the past.
Definitely.
Especially 7/4 is one of my favorite odd time signatures, but I'm very happy with that little riff in 5/4. I'll just play it to you once again. Yeah. You wouldn't like to count it, would you?
I would love to.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Great.
5/4.
Yeah, see, I'm a lover of things that are in odd time signatures but actually feel natural and swing.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff in 7/4. Are there any special counting tricks that you use to yourself when you're splitting away, when you're taking it away from 4/4 like that?
I don't really. Maybe when I'm working the thing out, I'm conscious of what time it's in. But the main thing always is that it has to just feel natural, as if it's in 4/4. You know, everything has to just seem like it's an easy thing and falls in the right place, and it's not something you've got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, like because then I think that loses the point. You know, it still has to rock.
Some of the notes you're playing are ringing out a lot, and some of them are muted. How do you approach that muting technique that you use?
Well, usually by putting my right hand on the strings. I'm not a fan of guitars with built-in dampers, because then you're limited to everything sounding like that. Strange thing is, being brought up on the Rickenbacker like I was, that I never ever could play like that because of that big metal thing that was over it. You know, you either had to rest your hand on that metal thing and play that side of it, or rest your hand behind the bridge on the Rickenbacker, so you could only ever really play it open. And since I had guitars that, you know, you can rest your hand on, obviously then you do have that choice of being able to play, you know, some things a little bit more muted, and the more you move your hand back, the more open the sound becomes, and then dead once again. And the closer you move it this way, the woodier it sounds.
So, any other basses you can enlighten us with today?
There is this green one back here, which I used on Owner of a Lonely Heart, and actually was made by the Meridian Guitar Company in Boston, and I designed that bass too. It actually has my initials on it in a very squiggly form, and a lot of people really like its attractiveness, and I like it because it's green, and that's my favorite color, and that plays very well. I won't play that one now though. Over in the back here we've got the Electra guitar that was made by the Alvarez people, which it never went into development, but it was used on Cinema, which was our track we got a Grammy Award for on the 90125 album. And I also used it on Tempest Fugit on the Drama album. And what was interesting about it is the way it had built-in effects into the back of the body, which meant that the sound of the effects was real clear and real. There was no miles of cable to lose the potency. If you'd like to hear a bit of that?
I'd love to hear it.
Okay, well, we'll hear a bit of that.
Interesting sound.
Yeah. About 9 years ago, I think they made this, and they were going to market it, but it didn't actually go on the market, but I always felt it was a shame it didn't, because it had a unique thing about it, that it had effects that were built straight into the back of the guitar. In fact, I'll demonstrate first of all one of the effects. It has a low octave dropper, so that when you play a regular note, it sounds like that, and you put the low octave in, and you get the lower, 1 octave lower. Apart from that, it also had the other effect I was using is the flanger, which sounds like that kind of aeroplane-y sound. And it was a very unique system. I'll show it to you. In the back of the guitar, they just had this flap, and you just could pull these things in and out. They made about 16 of them in all, and you know, like wah-wah sounds and all kinds of neat little sounds. But the reason why it sounds so present, I think, is because the effect is right close to the guitar without it having to go through a lot of cable. And who knows, maybe one day they'll come out with it again. So that's the MPC bass.
All right. What other basses can you show us?
Well, yeah, there are two more basses that I'd like to show you. One is the 8-string bass, and then moving on from that is the 8-string bass which doesn't have the low part, which is actually just the high part of the 8-string bass. So first of all, I'll show you the Rani bass. was the beginning from Changes from the 90125 album, and this, as I said before, is an 8-string bass, and they've been around for a while, but I actually made a little adjustment on my own for that tune. The bottom 2 strings are tuned normally as in an 8-string bass, where you have the low E string and the higher E above it that you play at the same time, so you get that unison octave sound. And the A is the same with the low and the high A. But then the top 2 strings, instead of tuning them to an octave, I tune them to fifths. So the D string has an A above it, so you have a fifth there, and the G string has a D above it, so you have a G and a D. So you get that very kind of, I suppose it's a gothic kind of sound that's very useful for all kinds of little playing around things. You know, you can just sort of simply play. Pretty little sound, and so because I've been playing around at home with that a lot, when we came to do that tune, it inspired me to use it. It seemed to suit the mood a lot. So that basically is the 8-string bass, and which leads me on to the last bass I want to show you, which it really isn't a bass. Really, it's a guitar for bass players, because all it has is none of the low strings, just the high strings, and it was made by Photon originally to be used as a synthesizer guitar, and it had all kinds of stuff attached to it which went into a MIDI box, which then was supposed to drive you know, keyboard synthesizers and other sounds through the MIDI system. Unfortunately, most of those systems have up until now fallen a little short of really being effective when it comes to playing anything fast. And so after a while I kept the guitar and still playing around with it. I've just come to enjoy it as an instrument by itself. So over to the Photon. It's a pretty thing. It's I've been writing a lot of songs on this recently, and it's kind of like, it's great for bass player because you can get like guitar octaves and still only have to play 4 strings, and you know, which I can play better than, because I've got really big hands and I can't really get my hands around the guitar that well. So this is a great instrument for me. And so thank you, Photon, for inventing something that was supposed to be for one purpose, but I found another use for.
Can you show us some of the effects you use with your pedal board, like in the beginning of the Fish?
Yeah, the initial Fish part at the beginning, I think I was probably using my chorus effect, which is wavery kind of effect. This is all incidentally built through this pedal board that was made for me by Steve Dove, who was very ahead of his time. Before Bradshaw even started making rigs, he and I worked out this computerized situation where you didn't actually have effects at your feet, and the effects were stored back there with the rest of the rack, and this was merely a switching board that allowed short cables to be on the effects themselves, and just the actual switching, plus the fact that we worked out how you could combine different programs that had 2 or 3 or 4 effects on each one, so you could go directly from one kind of effect to another. And that was actually about 8 years ago that we made. Well, in fact, there was 2 versions before this one. This one itself is about 6 years old and still works very, very well. I'll just run through it. So that's my digital effect, which is I use as a chorus. I also have a tremolo unit. It's that vibrating sound. And I used that on Starship Trooper, actually. It was on the Yes album. It was kind of very enhanced by the engineer at that time, and he used it a lot for the lick at the beginning, and it really had a great sort of wobble to it. And that is the oldest effect I have in my rack, actually made about 20 years ago, and I haven't heard one to beat it yet.
It's an analog effect, right?
It's an analog effect.
It sounds so clean.
Yeah, it's real quiet. It's quieter than most of the digital effects. And to demonstrate that, here's my reverb unit. I won't say who made it, but but it's a nice sound. But just a little noisy. But you get the. Nice and eerie.
Yeah.
Nice and eerie. What else do I have here? The famous fuzz, which is very smooth for a bass fuzz. That's actually an old Gibson Maestro.
Oh, really?
Fuzzbox, yeah. Once again, I haven't really found another one that's as smooth as that. It's something to do with maybe the components age, they get smoother or something, I don't know. And I change things in and out now and again, but I do have also, a repeat echo unit, which is this guy. Which is your multiple repeats that. I believe the Pink Floyd used that.
Okay, I see one other button that hasn't lit up down there.
Yeah, that's well, that's the special button, which enables me, as I said earlier, to combine effects, and the echo that you just heard and the fuzz that you heard just preceding it, I can combine both of those and kick that in, and well, that sounds like this. It's a nice, smooth, kind of tribal sound.
That's a big sound.
That's a big sound, yeah. And that brings us on to the lower keyboard on my pedal board, which is basically the same as a set of Taurus bass pedals, but it's laid out in lights here instead of regular pedals. And that's what I used to, I play that with my feet at the same time as with the playing the melody with the bass. And basically it's just a low set of keyboards like you might find on a Hammond, something like that. And that's goes like this. And it used to be a set of Taurus pedals, and plus an old set of pedals I have from Italy, from about, that were made I think in the mid-60s. I don't know how the Italians got into making early synthesizers, but apparently they did. And as time has gone on, I've obviously been able to sample those sounds and put them into that mobile high-end sampler. And so I don't have to take the units on the road with me anymore, because they're available to be triggered from this. So we've come a little way with the bass pedals.
It's a great idea.
First started playing them. Yeah.
I have to ask you a question about the Fish. When you recorded the Fish, I mean, that was the first time I heard a bass with that many tracks, with harmonics. I mean, did you feel like you were really stepping out when you approached that piece?
Yeah, I think I was just naturally, you know, being at that age, I was just trying anything, you know, just enthusiastic to give things a go. When I first started playing, I was considered to be a bit of an oddity anyway. I was not liked by engineers if on session work, when they had to do 6 titles in 3 hours, and I'd come in with my trebly sound, and you know, they just wanted the standard thing, and you know, and I played a little bit too much for them, and they said, well, I saw them challenge the producer, why did you get this guy? You know, we need someone who can just do the job, just like, you know. And so I guess I was never really cut out for that world. And yeah, so I experimented a lot, and a lot of those ideas have obviously helped me in the long run.
Yeah. How many tracks were utilized for me?
For the Fish? Yeah. At that time, we just got 16 track in England.
Great.
When we were doing Fragile. Actually, we got it for the Yes album. That was so it was the second album we did. So I think I probably, you know, used them all, as anyone does. Yeah.
A lot of the players from the UK at that time were influenced by Motown. Did Motown have any kind of influence on your playing?
No.
I guess so.
No, none at all. Yeah, I used to like Motown a lot. In fact, what a lot of people don't probably realize, and maybe don't even care about, but bands like The Who, when they first started, they did Motown covers. And especially in the early 60s, you know, 64, when I used to go and watch The Who in a band called The Action at the Marquee Club religiously, yeah, I really got into Motown because of the fact that those bands were covering those things. And then a couple of friends of mine had the originals, and I used to go around to their apartments and you know, smoke a cigarette and listen to some of those old Motown bass parts.
What about jazz? A lot of your stuff sounds jazz influenced. Were you ever heavy into jazz?
I was never a big lover of jazz. My father used to like kind of, I suppose, what could be referred to nowadays as straighter jazz, like Ella Fitzgerald and Lena Horne and big band sort of jazz. He used to listen to a lot of that. But it never really was something, you know, you don't usually like what your father likes, you know. As you usually like to identify with your own thing when you're growing up. But of course, when I joined Yes, or started Yes, and Bill Bruford came along, he was a jazz freak. So he used to play it a lot and influenced me somewhat. So the jazz elements in some of those earlier Yes things come a lot from Bill Bruford. And I think John Anderson used to like it quite a lot too.
Your time is quite incredible. Did you ever work out with a metronome much, or would you recommend that for younger players coming up?
It depends. I think nowadays people are more adjusted to timing, being in time. I mean, now that there's so much more music around generally than when I started off, that I don't know if I recommend it. Yeah, if you need to, then I recommend it. But of course, even when, you know, in the mid-70s, when disco became a very big fashion, I didn't object to it as much as a lot of people did, because to me it brought a lot of people into music who normally wouldn't have been into rock. And I think, you know, sort of raised the music consciousness of the general population, really, in all countries. And I think also along with that, a lot of people got like time hammered into their head, you know.
A lot of your playing, a lot of the riffs that you do take you to different places on the neck. Are there any ways that you could maybe show us to perfect travel up and down the neck?
Well, you mean the sort of slides and things? Well,
yeah.
I do practice them.
Yeah.
is one thing. I don't. I think you've got to be brave, basically, when you're playing bass guitar, because when you first start playing, to actually scrape your finger up of like a wire wound string like that, you know, you're going to get blisters, and you're going to like think, is this a good idea? You know, but once you get over, your skin hardens and your enthusiasm remains, then you know you can pretty much do anything. But it's down to attacking things really in a serious way, you know.
You know, Heart of the Sunrise has always been a favorite line of mine that you created.
Right.
It really sounds like you. Could you maybe demonstrate some of that?
Okay. That was in A flat, which is a very funny key for rock and roll to be in the first place. I assume you're talking about the beginning line, the... Threw that one at me, you know. I haven't played this for about 6 years, but yeah, I'll go home and practice that.
More recently, Owner of a Lonely Heart. It's very amazing the way the verse is almost halftime of what the chorus feeling is. Could you maybe play that line and demonstrate how you might have come across it?
The main line of Owner?
The main line, and then when it goes into the ding, ding, ding,
sure,
the double.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, Trevor Rabin came up with that line. It's a very. What's very clever about it is that it's very simple, but it swings very well at the tempo we did it. And then the other section has more of a. Actually, that Motown influence you were talking about very much comes out. So you have the verse and chorus, which was very much. Basically that with a couple of variations, and which led you into. So there you have it.
Is there anything that you can show us that would maybe cause a finger-playing bass player to switch to a pick?
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for being with us, Chris.
Thank you, Bob.
It was a pleasure, and
Nice.
for your time. And you're going to close with a little solo of Amazing Grace.
That's right.
All right.
Okay.
Chris Squire, ladies and gentlemen.